Alright lads, so Bleach Rebirth Visored releases in less than 10 days time, and at this point in time, I think it's quite safe to say that the roster has been completed. A character roster consisting of 33 playable characters, 32 that you can play on the release of the game, with a secret character unlocked that you do get upon completing the main story modes. Amongst these 33 characters, we have access to 1 Quincy, 1 Fullbringer, 7 Espada, and also 24 Storybus. And for today's video, we're here to have a discussion regarding the character roster and how I personally feel about it in terms of the good, the bad, and maybe what Bandai should have done differently. A video like this, since we are going to discuss the, characters that have not been included, might seem negative in nature, so just to start off the video, I want to talk about the positives. Having a 33 character roster is actually really good for our very first Bleach game, a potential start of a series, because I'm really hoping this game does do well enough to warrant a sequel, when we can get access to the Fullbring arc and also Thousand Year Blood War. Because what I've seen from this game thus far, it looks really good from a story standpoint and also from the way it does play, so I would love to see how Tamsoft can perfect this game in a sequel with Fullbringers and Quincy's included. With that in mind though, a 33 character roster is good in itself, but especially when you consider the fact that every character is said to play uniquely different from one another, it's going to make the character roster feel bigger than it actually is, despite it only being 33 characters. Since every character isn't going to play the same, every new character is potentially hours of free content. The Bleach IP has access to many iconic characters, and with that in mind, Tamsoft had quite the difficult choice trying to fit all those characters into just 33 character slots. And with that in mind, I feel like they did a pretty good job. Like, most of the imposing characters here are included. I don't think there's any wasted slot. And that does include Kain, although I will admit I'm biased because this is technically a way for Adan Yoro to be playable. But in general, there's no character that I would replace with another character. Personally, as you can see from the title, I just maybe want a tiny bit more, and that might be greedy to say, and it probably is. But the reason why I say the roster was almost perfect is because, in my opinion, we're maybe only missing 5 characters max. So let's talk about those characters. And the first character to talk about is going to be Orihime. Now I know, you're probably tired of the Orihime discussion. It's been going back and forth for the last 7 or so months since it seemed like she wasn't going to be playable. But I am on the side that Orihime should have been playable, and I feel like it's very weird to not have a main character part of the actual game. Well, yes, Orihime isn't much of a fighter. She does briefly fight at certain points, and she has a skill set that easily could have translated into a playable character. We've seen in past games like Brave Souls, the upcoming Soul Resonant, and past Bleach Heat the Soul games that Orihime has been playable, and it is possible to make a moveset out of the character's abilities. And if there was one thing I would have changed right from the get-go, it would be to include this particular character, Orihime. Because having Chad, Oryu, Ichigo, and no Orihime, it just feels like something's missing. And even though I might have not even played with Orihime, I just feel like it's weird to not have a main character. A popular one of that too. I feel like people would have bought the game just for her alone. As for the other characters that aren't playable that I do think are strange omissions at the very least, if we break it down by affiliation, first up, let's talk about the captains. The only 2 characters that aren't playable here is Retsu and also Jushiro, and I think these 2 characters are quite understandable why they aren't included in this game. In regards to Retsu, likely we are going to get her through DLC with Yachiru Unohana. And if you were to give me one Unohana in this game, I definitely would prefer Yachiru. It just makes more sense, and it's also a significantly more cool version of Unohana. To have her playable using her Bankai when she does awaken, that's going to be really fun when she does get included in the DLC pass. And since she wasn't included in the game, I feel like she's a shoo-in to be included in the DLC pass. Juishiro not being included here, it feels weird if we do get Unohana through DLC because he's going to be the only captain not playable technically. I'm kind of okay with it though, I will be honest. Mainly due to the fact that from the looks of it, he wasn't included because he doesn't really do much in the series. His biggest moments in this series never consist of him actually fighting. He has a brief fight with Shinsui against Stark and Lily Net, but for the most part, he really didn't do much, and they obviously wanted to prioritize Stark and also Shinsui playable, so having no Unohana, no Jushiro is kind of understandable, especially with the idea that we might be getting Unohana playable through a DLC character. When it comes to the lieutenants, most of them have been included here. We have Rukia, Rangiku, Renji, Izuru, Shuei, Ikaku, and also Kaien. The only 2 characters that are really missing here is Yumachika and also Momo. Those are the 2 names that I know a lot of people were saying. I personally don't really care that much if Momo was going to be playable or not, but Yumachika I feel like is a strange exclusion. He does have 2 noteworthy fights during the arcs this game is going to cover, especially the second fight that he does have with Charlotte, who is one of the main pillar fights, so I'm actually kind of curious if they are going to include that in-game. And I feel like that reason alone should have made Yumachika playable. For some reason, he's not. Momo, I think, isn't that bad not being included, but I really feel like like Yumachika should have been. So if you were to give me an option between Yumachika or Momo, I would have included Yumachika. And if we got those two characters or Yumachika, I would have been perfectly happy with the characters that we did get as far as lieutenants are concerned. When it comes to Visored, we only have access to Shinji, with Hiyori briefly appearing in his moveset. Now, I think opinions regarding the Visored will vary, because when I was having this discussion with my friend, I didn't really care that much that the other Visors weren't included. I only ever expected Shinji to be playable since there are 10 of them, right? Again, we already have a limited roster of 33 characters. There is no way we can include 10 captains, 10 lieutenants, 10 Espada, and also like, what, 7 plus Visors? There's just too many of them. So I was perfectly fine with Shinji being the only one that is playable, but one of my friends, you know, doesn't like the fact that a lot of the Visors aren't playable. If anything, maybe Hiyori could have been included, or Hachigen, since they do have decent fights. More so Hachigen, actually, he fights against Baragan. But at the very least, Hiyori is included in this character's kit, so if you are a Hiyori fan, you can see her through Shinji. My biggest problem with the character roster, though, more so nitpicks, it really comes to the villains of this series, right? There's only 10 Espada. There are only 10 Espada, and I feel like it's quite a shame that this late into Bleach as an IP, right? The anime was done years ago. They've been working on this game for years with the idea that they are going to cover the entire Aranka arc. How do we not have all the Espada playable? Like, that is so crazy to me. Now, I'll admit, I'm very grateful that Kain was included, because this is a soft way of letting Aaron Yuro be playable in-game. With that in mind, I feel like Aaron Yuro should have been the playable character. Like, let's be honest, the main reason why Kain is playable in this game is because of Aaron Yuro. While Kain is important to Rukia's character, he doesn't really do anything in this series besides die, right? The only reason we get to even see his character's powers and abilities is through Aaron Yuro. And I feel like having Aaron Yuro as the base character would have been a lot more cooler. But at the very least, I will admit, we get to experience that character through the skin. So again, I can't really complain all too much because there are other Espada omitted from the game. At least I get to play with the skin and pretend to be Aaron Yuro. Because some of the other Espada that are included, right? We're missing Zamari. We're missing Yami. Technically, we're missing Aaron Yuro. And we're also missing Baragan. When it comes to Yami, he might not be the most popular character, but he does do quite a lot. And he is included in a lot of fights. So to not have him in game is a bit sad. Zamari and likewise with Aaron Yuro are two characters that always get left out. So I feel like it's a bit of a shame that Rebirth of Souls didn't go above and beyond and include them, because again, they're always left out. They're always like the last two Espada that ever gets included in anything. And then I think by far the biggest omission out of this entire roster, if we just got this one last character done, I would have been more happy than I am now. But I am happy. Keep that in mind. I'm not being super negative. Is Baragan not having the second Espada, the king of Hueco Mundo, is very strange. Is very, very strange. And it's now led to a lot of people asking why. Why was this character not included? Some would say they couldn't make a moveset for this character. But again, as game developers, that is their job to kind of come up with a reason to make the character playable. And it definitely wouldn't be that hard. Yes, he does have the Respira that can age you over time. And that easily could just be treated as damage over time, very similar to Mairi's poison effect. And while I haven't seen much people talk about it, in my opinion, maybe one of the main reasons why this character wasn't playable, and something that I was kind of fearful of when the game was announced as we were going through the character releases, is that unfortunately Baragan's voice actor is no longer with us, at least the Japanese one. And I feel like maybe that would have been the reason why Baragan was not included into the base roster, because he just doesn't have a voice actor available. And I'm also now wondering how they're going to handle him in the story mode, because he is going to be a boss. We are going to fight against him. We just can't really play as him, right? I want to know what his dialogue is going to consist of, if he's just going to be a background character until he does get the fight. Even Brazo, since the voice actor's passing, hasn't had a new Baragan. And if we ever do, it would be just using old voice lines. So likely if we do hear Baragan talk in game, it will just be old pre-recorded voice lines from the original anime or for other past Bleach material. Maybe Bandai and or Tamsoft or even the Barriot team themselves didn't want to hire a voice actor for this character, and that likely will be the main reason why this character was not included. At least in my opinion. But to wrap up the video, overall the roster actually looks really solid. Tamsoft clearly went down in the approach of quality over quantity, and the fact that they did that while also having a character roster of 33 is really impressive, and you definitely can't understate that. There's a lot to offer from this character roster, and it was so close to perfection had they maybe included the rest of the Espada and also Orihime. And honestly, that's in a way maybe okay depending how you look at it. No character roster is perfect. Even Sparking Zero is missing characters. So in the comments below, let me know what character you are excited to play with that is currently in the roster. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care and peace.